Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Molson Zia Missing, available on Amazon, paperback and ebook, coming soon, Missing 2 by me and Molson Zia, double the expense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of David, including 30 exquisite paintings and more. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner, and the Sensei Swing. Eric Diamond was the latest release, All of Me, featuring the title track and more. EricDimeMusic.com, new release coming very soon. We're here with terrific gentleman who's an author, retired Alaskan law enforcement officer, born in Homer, raised in Anchorage, spent 25 years of service, specialized in crime scene analysis, deviant sexual crimes, hostage negotiations, and very special assignments. He's an avid O'Neill with his wife, Kim, began the wine business in '07. And a new book he's got out, which brings to life stories so bizarre, so twisted, that readers will leave you speechless. Comes straight out of the source, author-led journey, how far some will go on some certain things. The book is called 50 Shades of True Crime, live, ladies and gentlemen, the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Anchorage. The amazing author, retired Alaskan law enforcement officer, and the author of the book, 50 Shades of True Crime, the multi-talented Doug Fifer. Doug, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Doug. So you're an author, retired Alaskan law enforcement officer of 25 plus years, specializing in crime scene analysis, deviant sexual crimes, hostage negotiations, very special assignments. You're also avid O'Neill Files, if I got that right, with your wife, Kim. Began a wife business in '07, a wine business, should say. You have a new book, brings to life stories so bizarre and so twisted that readers will be left speechless, including myself, if I touch it. Your book comes straight from the source, author-led journey on how far someone will go to achieve their sexual freakish desires, which is, you can also play Name That Crime, The Last Climax, Teachable Tidbits, and the book is called 50 Shades of True Crime. Before getting all that, Doug, tell us how you first got started.
Started with the book or just started in life?
Just starting in life, law officer, go all the way back in the time machine. Way back, Doug, way back.
Yeah, if we go way back, I was born in Homer, Alaska. And if you've never visited Alaska at all, your listeners definitely get there. It's the most beautiful place on earth. I'm a little bit biased, of course, being born and raised there, but it's incredible. So you got to get up there. Homer's about 5,000 people, so pretty small, about 270 miles south of Anchorage. So I was born there, but I grew up mainly in the Anchorage area. And then in 1996, as a young person, I needed a job. And I always was fascinated with law enforcement. It seemed exciting. It always changed. There's adrenaline attached to it. So in 1996, I applied for the Anchorage Police Department and the Alaska State Troopers. Those are our two big police organizations. I was hired by the Anchorage Police Department. And then a week later, I was offered a job by the State Troopers.
Oh, wow.
Since I'd already accepted from APD, I worked my 25 years in the Anchorage area. And all these cases in the book, I worked personally, or I was associated with in an investigation.
Okay. And what was that one exact precise moment that simply influenced you into what you do in the rest of your career?
Well, to be a cop, the one moment, my dad was from Baltimore, and we're Orioles fans since he's back there for baseball. And we travel back there during the summer. And I remember going to the stadium as a young kid. We didn't have enough money to buy tickets at the time. So my dad was just driving us around the ballpark. Keep in mind, in Anchorage, Alaska, we don't have any pro stadiums, any pro sports. So you're fascinated at these big, giant stadiums. And we were in the back area restricted, and a trooper that was on overtime at the stadium stopped us and said, "What are you guys doing?" And my dad said, "Well, just showing my kids the stadium, but we'll get out of here." And he said, "Why aren't you watching the game?" So my dad said, "We didn't have tickets." He said, "Park right there." And he led us in the entrance, which is their security entrance. It was like the seventh inning. And he said the door locks on the way out, so enjoy the game. So we got to watch 2 innings of the game. But I always looked at this guy like some superhero back then. I remembered it as a small kid. So I thought, someday I want to do that. But I don't remember his name or whatever happened to him. But, I'm pretty thankful that he had that influence on me.
Mm-hmm. And of course, being a sports fan and everything like that, you also had some memorable sports events. You dealt with the Stanley Cup at one point.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough that Scotty Gomez played with the Devils for many years. The Cup was won twice. It always comes to the hometown of the players. And then lucky and fortunate for police departments is they have to have a detail, which is a group of officers that protects Lord Stanley Cup. So I was assigned to that detail, which is pretty fun. So you got some intimate time with the cup. Might have included some drinks out of it, some passing it around, a lot of pictures, but very, very cool. It's the most coveted trophy in sports. So I was honored to be able to hold it.
And what was in that Stanley Cup to drink?
Well, it could have been a lot of beer in that Stanley Cup.
You're making me thirsty already, Doug. I wish I had your job. I'll tell you to play hockey.
It was pretty cool. It was a cool time for sure.
Yes, that's right. And of course, how about the other sporting events that you managed to get some details in?
Uh, Typically, we have a lot of college games. We used to have the Anchorage Aces. They're no longer with us anymore. That was like a semi-pro hockey league, so you could work some of those details. So mainly it was hockey. We don't really have any, college football or any of those type of events that you can work for pro sports. Alaskans, when they travel out of state, they typically go to the major ballparks or football stadiums because it's fun watching live professional sports.
And you also get to go into Canada at times too, like you'll go by Calgary, Edmonton, and everything else as well.
Yeah, yeah, very cool.
And certainly does as well too. And plus, you had your share of some true crime as well too. But I was going to ask you something. On affiliate with your wife Kim, what exactly is that? I forgot to ask about that.
Yeah, that just simply means you're a wine lover. We grew up loving wine, and in 2007, we opened up a wine business in Alaska. It was kind of cool because I was the only cop with a liquor license. Generally, they frown upon that, where you work law enforcement and have a liquor license. But we ran wine retail, which was very popular. We ran it for 12 years and then sold the business. We love wine so much, we name all our dogs after wine. We had Merlot and then we had Malbec. So whenever we get a new dog, they get a grape name.
That sounds interesting. I think I'm ready for some. I'm sure you had to card some people, right?
You definitely have to card some people. I don't think you could be law enforcement and sell to underage. That'd be frowned upon. So we carded pretty much everybody.
Well, I think I can understand why, because I used to work at a drugstore, and me and one of my friends, he would purposely card every woman, go to the store, see how old they are, strike up a conversation, and get their phone number afterwards. That's a good reason to card. So
Yeah, I think even with law enforcement, I definitely couldn't do that. So I'd have to stay away from that one.
But of course, you also had more crimes to deal with. You got some really interesting stories. Talk about that with 50 Shades of True Crime with Doug Fifer. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, International Warring Author Me and Molson Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Me and Molson Zia, available on Amazon, a paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon, a paperback and ebook. Missing by Me and Molson Z has got great reviews. And Eva Lovin endorsed by our celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forrest Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today, for it goes Missing by Me and Molson Zia, available on Amazon. Coming soon, Missing 2 by Me and Molson Zia, double the suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite paintings and King David's song. The Sweet Psalmist gives new perspective on the David through the Psalms he wrote. His time as a shepherd where it started, and complicate your turbulent relationship with King Saul. Story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought by Sensei Swing, Eric Daimler's release All of Me, featuring title track I've Got a Heartache, Bring Me Sunshine, Strike a Match, and more. Eric's a multi-award winning artist, inducted numerous Hall of Fames, Entertainer Album of the Year. He'll be releasing a new CD soon. Check out the amazing Eric Diamond today, ericdiamondmusic.com. Also follow on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Also check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Follow us on Facebook, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and more. For great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/me and Molson Zia. Great books, merchandise, and more. And support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the multi-talented Doug Fifer of the book 50 Shades of True Crime here on the Mike Wagner Show. Spending 25 years, especially on crime scene analysis, even sexual crimes, hostage negotiation situations, and maybe the one thing that stands out, and I think they think that police work is really cool and everything like that, but there's more to it. That it's all routine work, and what's some of the things you could have someone expect if you want to get into law enforcement? What does it really entail?
Yeah, I would tell you it's not as glamorous as you might always think. I worked crime scene, which is a homicide call out team forensically that maps homicides. And you would go to the scene and you might have to work 24 hours straight. That's
Wow.
fingerprinting, vacuuming, getting all DNA out of a crime scene. Very exhausting. You might be on your hands and knees in dirt and filth, but you have to do it in order to get the evidence to, seal the crime. That's not always glamorous. You're not, you watch CSI where you go in and find one hair in a bed and you solve the crime. It's not how it works. You really got to work your butt off and collect evidence. It is a wonderful job though, because at the end of the day, you get to protect your community by solving these crimes, putting the bad guys or bad girls away in prison, which is a good thing to protect everyone. So very rewarding, but it's harder than people think.
And plus, you have to deal with hostage negotiation situations, which can get a little intense. Of course, everybody's got a different story. What's probably the most difficult hostage negotiation that you have ever dealt with?
Yeah, hostage negotiations was my favorite part of the police department. I had a lot of specialties that I did, but that's the one I found most enjoyable. I think I naturally had the gift of gab, so it came easy for me. One of them that's a unique case is I had a serial killer in Alaska that we had a manhunt out for him for many, many days, and he was able to evade police. Eventually, we got onto him, and he broke into an apartment and took two hostages. I was called out from that point to negotiate. So it's kind of one-on-one with the serial killer. Uh, and there's chess. It's kind of like a chess match back and forth. And to build rapport at that time with somebody who's a pure sociopath, so that's difficult. They don't have a lot of emotion, and negotiators feed off emotion. So without that, it makes it more difficult. But over the course of a long period of time, I was able to have him release one hostage and then eventually the second hostage, and we were able to get the serial killer out and arrest him and put him away in prison for over 100 years, which was very good.
And plus, I also think about some of the other situations as well too. That yeah, more difficult ones, or maybe some of the common ones, or maybe if you got involved with some of the more famous types of situations, especially in Alaska, which got national headlines.
Yeah, you would. One of the in the book on in 50 Shades of True Crime, I do have one negotiation that's pretty cool. I won't spoil the story, but it's a Playboy bunny that had her centerfold in Playboy, and that's a story in the book. So kind of famous. She used to date Hugh Hefner, so you'll have to read the book to find out on that story.
And plus, you had a number of deviant sexual crimes as well too. That it made me think of when I was going through it a little bit. Maybe think of was it David Carradine or Keith Carradine, the actor who died by hanging? He was involved in something that was just really bizarre. It's like even his son couldn't even fathom it. And really, I don't know if I want to really just mention on the air what he did. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a term for it. It's autoerotic asphyxiation. So that's, it's sexual in nature, but that's how he died. That's very, very common. We had a lot of cases in Alaska where that occurred. Interesting, just like his family, most families don't want to admit it happens, so they want it to be investigated as a suicide or a homicide. When a lot of the times it's autoerotic, it's self-induced where that death occurs. So it's hard to break it to the families, but we have to be honest and we have to follow the evidence and tell them. And that's how I kind of originated with the book. Is I have a lot of true crime stories, whether it's robberies, homicides that I worked. But really, when I told people stories, they wanted the most deviant stories I've ever worked or heard of. So I would tell these really intense sexual deviant stories, and they'd want to know more and more about it. So when I retired, I wrote the true crime book about them, which is a different twist from normal true crime. It's not that robberies and serial killers aren't cool to read about and it's fascinating how uh, interesting they can be. But this is really a unique twist on sexual deviancy. So all the crimes in here are very specific, and a lot of them people would have never heard of.
And they never heard of as in.
They never even heard of the terms, or they may never even think that people would do certain acts that are depicted in the book. It's certainly a hardcore look in law enforcement. I don't keep anything out of it. It's straight from the cop's mouth on the investigation and what I saw. So it gets pretty detailed into it. And again, some of the crimes people will be like, I've heard of that before. Some of them are so intense and so freaky that they probably never heard of them before.
And especially, you never know what your neighbor's doing, your local politician, the mayor, your other fellow police officer, anything like that. And maybe just a couple stories you can just go and throw out. We're not asking you to like, throw all 50 cases out there, maybe just a couple. And I could probably think of a couple, but I think yours takes the cake, to be honest with you. So
Sure, you bring up a good point. I say in the book that after you read it, you're going to wonder what your next door neighbor does behind closed door, what your best friend does, what your boss does, because you never know, right? You live in your house, you don't know what goes on next door. Police get like a bird's eye view into it because we're called to the crime scene, afterwards, so we get to learn all about it. But people get pretty freaky, and that's what the book depicts. There's one story in there that still kind of shocks me to this day. It's called the taboo tattoo. That's a drug dealer that I arrested, and he had quite a unique tattoo on his back. And in police work, we document tattoos. The reason why we do that is because we can use for identification later. So he said he had a female tattooed on his back. I didn't know what that meant. So when I saw it, it was a beautiful female encompassing his entire back. What had happened, to make a long story short, is he was incarcerated in San Quentin prison, and the Mexican mafia took a hold of him. And heroin's a big trade in prison. So they fed him heroin. He couldn't pay it back. So they turned him into a prison prostitute to have sex for money in prison with other inmates to pay
oh
off
my
his
God.
heroin habit. But they had tattooed him with this woman on his back that, I mean, it was incredible how realistic it looked. It's in the book. So listeners or readers more than welcome to take a look and see it. But it fascinated me that how, drugs, how rock bottom you can get because I don't know that you can go much lower than that. So that story still shocks me, even though I'm a seasoned law enforcement officer. I mean, that's pretty hardcore.
Or what about like decapitations, beheadings, or brutal killings involving sex? And of course, we have up in North Dakota, about a couple of years ago, a local chiropractor in Washburn actually, slaughtered, 100 times four people from a rental company. So I don't know if yours tops that, or is there something that's similar to it, maybe in sexual nature? So let's say I dare you to top this one if you have to. So.
Yeah, I would say there's a chapter on necrophilia. That's going to get pretty intense. And necrophilia is, for listeners, is having sex with the dead. So I depict a couple of serial killers. I have a mortuary worker, a medical examiner that actually were engaged in sex with dead people. That gets pretty violent. The serial killers, the worst of the worst, actually kill to have total control over the body, and that's where they get their satisfaction sexually. And they go back over and over again and have sex with corpses. That's a chapter in the book. It's pretty hardcore, but I detail it all in there, and it gets pretty rough.
And I think there's more involved too. That you can also have a thing like name that crime, the last climax, and teachable tidbits. Those are interesting.
Yeah, Name the Crime opens up the book, and what that does is I'll show you a booking photo or a piece of evidence, a picture, and I'll give you three options on crimes. You can read through the statutes, and you'll kind of guess the crime based on the photograph, and then you'll read the story and see how close you were. It's not as easy as you think, and these are some wild crimes. Teachable Tidbits is a cool chapter at the very end. What I do, since the book's so intense, I want to let the reader down a little bit to be able to breathe and have a little humor in there. So these are sexual things that I learned while being a police officer through investigations that are legal, and you may or may not incorporate into your own sexual uh, repertoire. You might or you might not. But you can read through there and read these stories on, everyday couples that use these type of things.
Oh my
So it's
gosh.
it's a fun chapter, but it's interesting, and it kind of ramps up. It goes from softer to more hardcore.
It also makes you think of the whole thing, like with I hear most common is bestiality, sex with animals, and also incest as well too. Makes you think of that. But then I also was watching a documentary about a town in Barrow, Alaska, which is like way up north, the most northern city of the whole continent. Everything, 3,000 people. There's some
Yep.
stories up there where it's just like it's so remote that our families are just simply interacting or just breeding from other family members out as well. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's some wild stuff that goes on. Barrow is now called Uktiavik. They changed the name. So Barrow or Uktiavik, interchangeable, but that's the farthest city you can go north. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. I do have a chapter, bestiality in the book. Again, for animal lovers, that's a rough chapter to read
Oh,
because, uh, but those cases not only happen in Alaska, but throughout every state in the lower 48 and across the world.
oh my goodness. I cannot fathom it whatsoever. I mean, I'm always speechless about this, to be honest with you. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. And then I'm just think of another question as well, too. Maybe just, one more story about it. And I'm trying to think of another crime that maybe some celebrities or sports figures, being involved like that in Alaska, even as college.
Yep, I would tell you for sports figures, we meet a lot of them that come up for fishing, things like that. Whether it's pro basketball players, and then we've met some of the, Arnold Schwarzenegger like to come up for fishing and events, things like that. So I've met many sports figures and celebrities. I can't remember any that we had to arrest off the top of my head, which is a good thing. So typically they go to Alaska for vacation, fishing, hunting, which is kind of cool and stay out of trouble. I think they get in trouble more in the big cities like LA or New York.
Well, could you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to go up in a boat or something like that, or try to steal a fish, or maybe try to rob a store or whatever? But also made me think too that go up there one day, probably a crime itself. Trying to was it salmon fishing, be up a boat for 5 straight days without any sleep.
Yeah, my family all originates from Ketchikan. They're all commercial fishermen. That's a tough job because it's 24/7. When the fish are in, you got to catch them. There's no sleep. It's no rest for the weary. It's a tough job. So I could have gone into that profession, but it was a little too difficult for me. So I took cop work. I thought that was a little bit easier.
And I think so as well too. And what do you want also readers to get from the book as well? What do they learn from them?
The overall concept of the book, and I highlighted it a few times, is, people might think that how they have sex or whatever porn they download or whatever, what they think their kink or weird stuff is, it's really not even on the spectrum of weird. Once you read through this book, you'll know what weird is. Uh, so that's kind of what you get at the end of it. I mean, a lot of people that email me on my website or chat back and forth are just blown away at how people can act or what they actually do in this
Mhm.
world. I mean, their minds blown. They can't believe it happens in our everyday communities. So that's fascinating to them. But I think overall, most of your listeners' sex lives are absolutely perfectly normal. If you're on the spectrum of the book and you're similar to that, you got bigger issues.
And of course, what do you think is causing all this sexual deviation? Everything you've done crimes like with, say, with decapitation, bestiality, or like with, a murder, everything like that. What do you think is the source, basically, of all the sexual deviant crimes, or what's causing it?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I'll tell you that sex is, although it's biological, when I interview these criminals, it's more about power. So all they like the sexual biological act. It's the power, the domination over the individual, holding them, making them do what they want. That's really what they get off on. The sex act is secondary to that, even though they do it. So I always found that fascinating. What makes those individuals tick exactly? I wish I knew, because then we could stop crime and solve everything. But I can't tell you even after 25 years. Individuals are so unique. But sex is a driving force, so a lot of crimes are backed by it. But again, it's that power aspect, which I think is most important to remember.
Do you think the environment could also factor as well too, with Alaska being remote, very cold, and some people say you could hardly find any work up there too. You can go to the fisheries, the oil fields, or even like was it offshore drilling and all that, but you know not much else though, especially in remote areas.
Yeah, environment, no doubt for Alaska. One, it's a vast area, it's massive. You have 8 months of winter. It's very dark, cold, short summer season. So a lot of depression in Alaska, a lot of alcohol and drug abuse in Alaska, which, leads to it. As far as our serial killers, we have the most serial killers per capita anywhere in the world. I think the reason for that is not only do we have our homegrown serial killers, but we have a lot of serial killers that come to Alaska because it's so vast and open they think they can get away with their crimes. They don't realize we have very sophisticated police departments, and that's not the case that they'll be able to rain terror upon Alaska. It is remote though, so there's a lot of places to hide bodies, whether it's in the woods, whether it's in the inlet oceans. It's a vast place, so I think that's part of the allure. They think they can come to Alaska and get away with crimes.
And who do you think is the most recent serial killers that you've caught? And of course, what are some of the other most bizarre serial killers you've ever encountered?
Well, Israel Keys is one of our most famous. He's not originally from Alaska. He came up there. He was a construction worker. Uh, but he would travel out of Alaska and commit murders, plan them months out, whether it was in Vermont, he would fly into Chicago, drive a car, he would pay with cash. He was almost untraceable. He always in his confessions, he said he'd never wanted to kill in Alaska because he knew he'd get caught. But eventually his brain overpowered him, and unfortunately he killed a 18-year-old victim, which we were subsequently able to track him and arrest him. He was probably good for about 12 homicides.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he committed suicide in jail before we could solve the majority of those. But he was a vicious and well-planned serial killer. If he hadn't killed in Alaska, I think his reign of terror could have gone on for a long time.
And especially traveling through Canada, maybe going to Mexico, overseas, or maybe going nearby Russia. And do you get some people from Russia coming over to Alaska, possibly committing some crimes, victims of crimes, and everything like that? Considering Aleutian Islands, you don't just sneak over this way, and you got part of Russia over here. Do you get some people from Russia coming over doing those same things?
Yeah, as far as the Russians coming over to commit crimes like robberies or homicides, not so much. Now, the theft trade, smuggling goods into Alaska from Russia, absolutely, we've had that before.
Okay, and what about the prostitution trade? Have you had that with Russia and everything else? And you had like crack down on the prostitution ring, the child was it the child exploitation ring and
Sex
everything like
trafficking,
that?
yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
that's a tough one. You know, prostitution is the oldest profession in the books, right? So it's always been a problem throughout my career. It'll continue to be a problem. The recent sex trafficking, that's intense and brutal, and that comes from all borders, right? Coming in and trafficking girls, boys, everything. So that's constant work for our police department, all police departments nationwide. But that's a tough one, but it's constant everywhere.
and of course, what are some of the crimes that were involved that ended tragically, like with sex crimes, child trafficking, and everything like that? And hopefully, people can learn from it.
Yeah, one is if you see something that's unusual in your community or you believe somebody is being sex trafficked, please call because the majority of the time your gut's right. We often find these victims too late, whether they're dead or they've been harmed, a ton. And talking to neighbors or somebody else, coworkers, they knew something was wrong in their gut, but they didn't report it. So if you suspect something, report it. We'll investigate it and then let you know if it's legit or not. We're never offended by if it's not real. We prefer that, right? But don't be afraid to call the police if you suspect some, because you might be saving somebody.
And of course, lastly, how can we also help?
Well, I think that's the best way is that one, you can keep yourself safe. I tell this to, I have like two daughters. I tell them, always trust your gut. If you find yourself in a situation where it seems odd or somebody's trying to have you come somewhere, don't go, right? Because the victims that I've all interviewed or that didn't make it, they all had a sense that something was wrong. Either they sent a text message or made a call before and said that something was a little bit odd, but they still went. Uh, don't do that. Walk away, go to a public place, keep yourself safe. And then again, what I said before is if you suspect something in your neighborhood, the police department's there to help you. Call them, give them the information, let law enforcement do their work investigation and see if it's real or not. We love to have the information. It's always sad when we don't get it and it was there and it's often too late.
And do you also aren't allow your citizens to be armed as well too with guns, rifles, or anything like that, protect themselves?
Yeah, Alaska is a big pro-gun state. Each household has about 2 to 3 guns per household in Alaska, so everybody's armed. We just anticipate that. But you have a lot of hunters in Alaska. We have brown bears, black bears, moose. So there's a lot of dangers when you're out in the woods. You probably need a firearm to keep yourself safe. But as far as personal safety as a former law enforcement, I certainly keep a weapon in my house.
Certainly did as well too. And what's more, come up with Doug Fifer, author of the book 50 Shades of True Crime. We'll find out just a minute. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Mostly Missing, The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David and more. Amazon.com, keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner, and the Sensei Swing, All of Me, featuring Eric Diamond, ericdiamondmusic.com. We'll be back with author Doug Fifer of 50 Shades of True Crime after this time. We're back with author Doug Fifer of 50 Shades of True Crime here on the Mike Wagner Show. I think we covered just about maybe one or two shades or anything like that. Maybe you want to throw a third one out there and tell everybody where can they get the book?
Yeah, you can get the book. It's a hell of a read. You can get it on Amazon. My website, dougfifer.com. You can go there. You can watch the book trailer. It's pretty interesting to watch. Again, you can read through all the cases. It starts lighter to heavier. Really works into some real deep sexually deviant crimes. Uh, I throw in some dark humor throughout the book because it's so intense that I think the reader needs that. From a personal standpoint, police often survive with dark humor. It's not that we make light of the situations, it's personal survival for our own mental health. But I use that in the book a little bit. I warn readers of that. But I think if you love true crime, this is such a unique twist on true crime. Very positive reviews to date with my readership that have, emailed me or contacted me. So I think they'll love it. Again, it's a fun read. You're going to learn a lot about sexual deviancy, some stuff you knew and some stuff you didn't. So I'd love readers to check it out and see what they think.
Okay. And where can they purchase a book and what's your website, Doug?
Yeah, the website's dougfifer.com. That's just dougfifer.com. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, the bookshop, anywhere books are sold. You can pick it up. There's audiobook, ebook, whatever you like.
All right, well, certainly check that out. Once again, author Doug Fifer of 50 Shades of True Crime here on the Mike Wagner Show. And Doug, just a few more things. What else can we expect from you 2025 and beyond?
Well, I think there'll be more books coming out, and I think the next one will be about Alaska serial killers. So if you have true crime fans that like to read about serial killers, I'll have one coming soon.
Especially with that guy you're telling me about. And what was his name again? I forget now. Ivan
There's Israel Keys. If you're
Israel
listening,
Keys. That's the one.
that's a good one to look up. He was quite deviant. Joshua Wade's another one. Unfortunately, Alaska has a bunch, and I'll write about them all.
All right, we'll certainly have you on for that. And who do you consider biggest influence in the career?
I think that trooper in Baltimore, I don't know his name. I think he's probably the biggest influence.
I must be a big baseball fan too. So
I think Alaskans love all sports. I mean, 8 months of winter, you're going to get into sports. You can snow machine, things like that, but at 20 below, you're stuck inside a lot. So TV and sports, it hits the mark.
and hockey as well too makes it
Yep.
feel better too. So yes. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Keep yourself safe. The police are always there for you, but first and foremost, your own line of protection. So if something seems odd, protect yourself and stay in a public place. If you ever need anything, call the police.
And that's a really good point to have as well, too. We're the amazing author Doug Fifer of 50 Shades of True Crime here on the Mike Wagner Show. Doug, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Laugh, have you back. Again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your book?
Yep, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, bookshop. My website, you can order an author signed book. It's dougfifer.com. Go watch the book trailer, check it out, see if you like it.
We'll certainly do that. Once again, Doug, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Laugh, have you back. We wish you all the best. And Doug, you definitely have a great future ahead.
Thanks, Mike.